Peace Energy Cooperative Save with Solar information session. It's going to be about an hour long, a little bit more than that maybe. And then after that, we're going to have a quick video and then a question and answer period. So feel free to forward your questions to Joanne or Jen through the chat box, or to everybody if you want, but you can go direct to them. They'll record the questions, and then at the end, we'll answer any questions and get everybody up to date as much as we can on the information. So, excuse me. So I'd just like to acknowledge that this meeting is being broadcast to you from the traditional lands of Treaty 8. The meeting is, what we're doing here in the office is from our office in Peace Energy Cooperative in Dawson Creek, British Columbia. We also have Jen in our Peace River office in Alberta. And in the office with me here tonight, my name is Greg Duick. I'm the lead solar designer and sales. We have Don Pettit, who's the executive director. And we have Joanne Duick, who's the president of the co-op and acting as our secretary tonight. She's my wife. So let's see here. And yeah, so I hope everyone's doing okay with all the COVID things that are happening. And we're trying to isolate as much as we can up here. We are kind of in a bubble together here with work at home. So we're going to have our masks off while we're presenting, just so you can see us. And yeah, let's see here. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Don Pettit now, and he'll start the presentation.
Okay. Okay, take that off. Okay, am I on screen? I am. Oh, look. Hi, everybody. So I'm executive director of Peace Energy Renewable Energy Cooperative. I was one of the founding members of the cooperative back in 2003. So I've been with the co-op a long time and kept an eye on it and been involved all the way from day one. So we're going to run through now a little bit of information about Peace Energy Cooperative, a little bit of our history, and then some of our projects that we've been involved in, just to give you some context about who we are. Part of our purpose this evening, of course, is to encourage you to join the cooperative as a member, and I'll be talking more about that towards the end of our presentation. Okay, let's just go ahead here. Up.
There.
Aha, okay, things are working after all. All right. We've been doing this quite a bit, but we're still learning, all right? Anyway, Peace Energy Cooperative, we were Western Canada's first renewable energy cooperative, incorporated in 2003, based in Dawson Creek here. But we're licensed to operate anywhere in Canada. And we also have an office in Peace River, Alberta. So as you can see here, I'll just read through a little bit of this, but our goal is to make renewable energy affordable and available, specifically in the Peace River District of Northern BC and Alberta, but certainly well beyond that as well. We are a for-profit cooperative. We're called an investment cooperative. We now have 572 member investors, paid up members, and that's growing pretty well every day these days, I'm happy to say. We use share offerings to our members to raise capital for our renewable energy projects and then provide a financial return to our member investors. Ideally, anyway, that's the goal. We were a key player in BC's first wind project, Bear Mountain Wind Park, and I'm going to show you a few pictures of that in just a second. And right now we're doing an awful lot of solar as well. Being a cooperative, we're based, we're what's called, value-based cooperative, very much so, rather than the average corporation. We have a strong values base. So we put community and people before profit whenever possible. But of course, profit is extremely important. We're a business like any other business. So we have wages and overhead, and we have to return some income to our member investors. And of course, overall, renewable energy has to make economic sense, which we're very happy to say it has matured over the last 20 years and now makes tremendous economic sense. We're going to talk a lot about that this evening. And of course, we have a very strong environmental ethic. Renewables, the move to renewables is critically important. There's no question, and seems to be getting more important every day. This is our first project that we started almost immediately after forming in 2003. At the time in the Peace River area up here, we were seeing we were calling wind energy prospectors. There was people coming in literally from all over the world into the BC Peace region. Because somehow people have found that we have a tremendous wind resource up here. So we went, oh, we better grab some of this good wind resource here. So we took out a lease on Bear Mountain Ridge, which is right near Dawson Creek. It's a Crown land lease, 2,000 hectares. We got that, we secured that. And then we began to bring together the partners that made this project possible and began to plan it all out. And we shepherded it through the entire 7-year process. So finished is 34 Enercon wind turbines, very large wind turbines, 3 megawatts each, in total producing 102 megawatts. Those are the 3 partners there: Peace Energy Cooperative, Aeolus Wind Power, and AltaGas. This was, we'll repeat, the first commercial wind project in British Columbia's history. So of course, there was a very steep learning curve for everybody involved. It was commissioned, has been operating in excellent returns since 2009. A couple of quick shots just showing the building of this. It was like a mega project up here. We were thrilled to see all this happening. You'll see at the upper left corner, those are the towers, the turbine towers that came in from Saskatchewan by truck. The blades came in from, where were the blades come in from? Germany, I think. The blades came in from Germany. And you see in the lower photograph, lots of local workers hired to actually build this, and they're pouring a foundation for a wind turbine. Here's some more shots just to give a scale and size of these really powerful 3 megawatt wind turbines, and 34 of them in this facility. A couple of an aerial view on the left gives you a sense of the ridge that this is built on, just a few miles from Dawson Creek. It's an excellent wind location, of course, and you can see the whole string, 8-kilometer long string of 34 turbines. And on the right-hand side, just finishing off the tops of the turbines there. And here's a couple of shots of them on the left side just being finished. The last blades were going up. The first turbines were being activated. And on the right, a lovely shot of some of the finished facility, a piece of it. And here's little old Dawson Creek, population 12,000 people, became BC's first wind-powered city. The power from the facility, from the wind facility, is fed into the grid, and then the power from the grid, the first load, the electricity goes to the first big load. The first big load is Dawson Creek. So these electrons from those wind turbines go directly to the city and powers it. Pretty cool. So this is early days when we were promoting the wind farm and educating people. I mean, up here, nobody had seen a wind turbine before. Nobody knew what they were. So we had a steep educational curve going on. And that went on for a number of years. Trade fairs, public meetings, educational seminars. And of course, the co-op was building its membership at the same time, moving towards a share offering so that our members would be able to invest in this project. Then I got commissioned in 2009, and then we moved on to a few other things. This is one of the other projects we got involved in that we're very proud of. We brought this forward to our local college, Northern Lights College, and the idea was a renewable energy training and information center, demonstration center. We originally thought of it as just a house that would be, as in the upper left photograph there. That was our original concept. It evolved into something much larger, which now exists on Dawson Creek campus of Northern Lights College. That's the lower picture, is an $8 million LEED certified amazing building facility that not only demonstrates, but also teaches and educates in renewable energy. So we're very proud of that as well. Meanwhile, while we were doing all of this, of course, we were watching the price of solar come way down, and the amount of solar being installed all around the world going way up very quickly. This is like about 8 to 10 years ago now. As you can see from this graph, the solar growth globally is doubling roughly every 3 years, expected to hit 7,400 gigawatts by 2040. which would make it then at that point the world's largest single source of energy. And this is what we were watching too as the installations went up. The blue bars showing an increase in installations. The little blue line shows the cost of solar modules going down over the same period. And you can see now it's bottomed out a little bit on the lower right, pretty level now, it's pretty well, but it's down really, really low. Quite remarkable how this, by the way, this growth in solar, maybe you know, but was not anticipated. Solar was not talked about as an energy answer 20 years ago at all. It was way too expensive, and you know, we had it on satellites and things, but it's as far as making power for the world, no, not a chance. Well, that certainly turned around, didn't it? So now that we are very much involved in selling, designing, distributing, and installing solar all around this region and across northern Alberta now too, and beyond. This is one of our larger projects, which we're very proud of. This is the Hudson's Hope Community Solar Initiative. This turned out to be the largest municipal solar project in BC's history at the time, and still is, I believe, 510 megawatts total. And of course, the district's idea was, of course, to reduce their electrical bills. Because every kilowatt of solar they produce themselves is a kilowatt of solar they don't have to buy from BC Hydro. So right now, they're saving some $75,000 a year on electrical bills thanks to these solar arrays that we designed and installed for them and commissioned. When did that go in? 2008. It was finished and fully commissioned. And here's, well, we hired some wonderful high school students from Hudson's Hope to help us install them, gave them a nice summer job, 7 of them, gave them a nice summer job and trained them up, and they were fantastic employees as we installed these very, very large state-of-the-art solar arrays on 9 municipal buildings across the district. Here's a couple more of the ones we installed. You see the one on the left, that's the District of Hudson's Hope Public Workshop. It's now 100% solar powered. And here's their sewage treatment lagoons ground mount array, which is now also 100% solar powered as well, that whole facility. And this is the coolest one we built on this project, which we're very proud of. We call this the Solar Wave. You see behind, that's actually a beautiful facility that Hudson Hope has in a park area, and that's an outdoor heated swimming pool. And you can see it's solar heated. Those are the solar panels on the top of the building there. And then on the left is what we contributed, which was a 10 kilowatt solar array. And because it's a swimming pool, we thought, hey, let's do something creative. This is the last one we did of the 9. And we said, let's do something instead of just hiding what we're doing up on a roof where nobody can see it. Let's do something that really shows solar off. So we made it in the shape of a wave. We had it locally fabricated and installed, and it's been there ever since, doing a great job of powering the facility and providing shade and sort of a nice architectural feature as well. And of course, local training, hiring, and education are really big priorities for Peace Energy Cooperative. So in Hudson's Hope, we spent some time with the district staff, maintenance staff, making sure they understood what was going on with the solar arrays. Those are the 7 students we hired down at the bottom there, and we also taught some classes on solar and renewable energy at the local schools. And then we had a big celebration when we finally did the big ribbon cutting thing. We had dignitaries from all over the place and media, and a big feast and a bunch of nice speakers, and everybody learned a lot and had a good time. And we cut the big ribbon and off it went. So, you know, that's a big part of what we do as a cooperative. We also engage the local communities we work in and do a lot of educating and public outreach. This is one of the projects we're getting very involved in now. This is the Peace River Community Energy Project. This is intended to be a solar farm that will be cooperatively owned entirely. That's the goal. It's intended to be in northwest Alberta, right near the town of Peace River. It will be grid-tied, ground-mounted solar, about 2 megawatts in size and about $5 million to build. We intend to be beginning construction spring of next year, and it should have an operational lifetime of 25 years or more. This is a sort of gives you a rough idea. It'll be about twice as big as this photograph shows, which would be about 7,000 panels, ground mount fixed tilt. As far as we know, a lot of this engineering is being done right now, and we're doing a lot of the studies. We need to do almost a year of environmental studies to put this in as well. Also, while we're doing this, we're building our membership up. We've got 572 members as of yesterday. We'd like to have 1,000 members by the end of this year. And with 1,000 members, we should be able to raise enough capital from our members to build this facility and entirely own it by the cooperative without having to go to outside financing. And we have often found with our projects that if we have to go to big money from somewhere else, we often have to relinquish some control and power over the production of the creation of the facility and then the running of it. So rather than losing power to some big investor, we're going to try to do it entirely within our cooperative's financial capital raising ability and see if we can own it outright and then return all of the income, all of the profits to our member investors. That's our goal. We should be able to do it. About 1,000 members are what we're shooting for. And we're also got this wonderful idea, like the Peace River area, both in Alberta and BC, is tremendously rich agricultural areas with tremendous amount of agricultural expertise. So our idea is to mix sustainable energy with sustainable agriculture, and that can take many different forms. Sheep are being used more and more in solar farms for keeping the grass down so it doesn't cover up the panels. And there's also beekeeping and other uses that, and also market gardening that can be done right in amongst the panels. You can collect water off the panels and they provide shade and shelter for livestock. And yes, here's just a point that this membership opportunity or this investment, member investment opportunity that we hope is coming up next year or late this year will only be open to members in good standing. So although we can't promise it's going to actually happen, we're working on it very diligently, and it's certainly our intention to make it happen. But you have to be a member to be offered the opportunity to invest. So another good reason to join Peace Energy Cooperative. We'll just run through some of the other solar we're doing here for home businesses, First Nations, municipalities, communities, but mostly just individuals who want solar. It's certainly something we've been finding over the last couple of years that we've been putting solar in. People are ready for solar. You know, people get the whole thing about solar energy, making your own energy, saving money on your electrical bills, and helping the environment. They really get it, and we're very happy to find that out, of course, because we're selling a lot of solar and we have a lot of interest in solar. I think the people, once again, are usually, as usual, a little bit ahead of the governments. So here's a few of our, there's our office right in the middle there. We're broadcasting from that office right now. It's 100% net zero, solar powered. And so that whole building has been running on nothing but solar power for, we had that up 6 years now, I believe. So we haven't paid any electrical bills since that was installed 6 years ago to run this building. And here's a few more proud owners of their solar arrays in this area. You see we do roof mount, garage mount, and on the bottom there, of course, ground mount near the house. It all works really well. Greg will be getting into more detail as to how the pros and cons of different types of installations, but this is just a quick sample of a few of the things we've done. Love the one on the lower right there. That's Greg's house, and you see the sort of the pergola or covered porch there using solar, generating electricity with a little bit of shelter as well. Really, really beautiful facility there. And businesses are big on it. The one on the lower left is a Fort St. John business, and it's his big shop. He's solar powered now, etc. So there's an overview of Peace Energy Cooperative and what we've been up to since 2003 as the first renewable energy cooperative in Western Canada. just to give you some sense of where we're at. I'm going to hand this over now to Greg, and he's going to get into some of the details. This is where the crash course in solar power begins. Greg is our expert in this, and he'll explain a lot of the pros and cons and technology involved in the solar facilities that we install.
Thank you, Don. Good intro. Just before we get going, we're kind of curious about, pardon our manual moving around here. We're still doing this, so kind of sharing our equipment. So just before we get into this, I'd like to do a quick poll, if we might. My wife Joanne will put it up for us, and it's just, how did you hear about this? We want to do this on a regular basis, so we're going to ask you for a bit of input now and also at the end of the program. So while you're doing that, I'll just go through 6 good reasons to go solar now. You know, in general, fighting climate change. I mean, this is by producing energy on your own building, using it in that building before it goes out to the grid is the most efficient way to make power that there is right now. We have a great solar resource. Everybody always focuses on the winter, but I'll show you later. If we look at an energy production graph for solar, we really start in March and go right through the end of September with really good energy production. So even though we're far north, we have an excellent resource. It's actually better than Germany. And you know, anybody who's looked at solar knows how much solar Germany has. The cost of solar has dropped hugely, as Don showed you with that graph a little while ago. Excuse me. The cost of solar panels has come down. Now, what's tended to happen is it's flattened out a little bit over time, but the value and the quality and the energy density of the solar panels has gone up drastically. It's kind of like your cell phones and your computers. They get better every year. The price goes up a little bit or stays the same, but the quality and the capacity gets better all the time. We've got a 25-year output warranty on the solar panels. Most solar panels also come with a 12-year parts and labor warranty. And the inverters also come with long-term warranties, 10 or 12 years, some of them 25 years. So, you know, it's not something you need to worry about. They're going to last a long time, and they just keep on putting out power. Both the BC and Alberta grids welcome grid-tied solar systems. In Alberta, it's called microgen with net billing, and in BC, it's called net metering. So slightly different systems, but I'll go through that later and what the differences are in those. And what we do is make that easy for you. You say, you know what, I'd like to go solar, and we help design a custom system for you. It's really difficult to have a blanket cover-all system. We custom design every system to make sure it's going to do what you want it to do within your budget, within your space. So let's get into the meat of it here. So in general, investing in solar, if you don't invest in solar, we know that the cost of power is going up on a regular basis, and that's the red line. If you invest in solar, it's going to last for a long time, decades and decades, and you may have to do a little bit of maintenance every now and again, but very little. So in effect, what you're doing is stabilizing your cost of energy into the future, well into the future. So every time the cost of power goes up, we normally pay those higher rates. Now you're going to have power that you're already producing with a system you've already paid for, so that cost is locked in. In general, what we're doing is we're taking the energy that's produced and we're using it in our building first. So in this case, if we look at called net metering, we're reducing the load. So our solar is, the sun just started coming up. We're making about 200 watts of power. Our little refrigerator there is using 700 watts of power. And that means we're pulling 500 watts off of the grid. BC Hydro, or in Alberta, you have a number of utilities and retailers. But in effect, we're reducing the load from the grid. Now we see the sun's come up higher. We're producing more power, we're making 2,000 watts of power. Our fridge is still only using 700 watts of power. So we're taking that extra power and it exports back to the grid, and we get a credit for that power. The utilities keep track of that inflow and that outflow. And that's where the real benefits come for us, because in Alberta, you get paid for that extra power. In BC, it's a credit that we use off of over time. So it's a really good system. There's a lot of value to it. And remember that term, inflow and outflow. Inflow from the grid, outflow to the grid. Outflow, you get credits for. Inflow, you get charged for. And if you note at the bottom there, no batteries required for a grid-tied system. So in this, we're really going to talk about grid-tied solar systems. Off-grid systems using batteries are a whole different animal and very specialized. We're going to focus pretty much on grid-tied systems. For a grid time, you do not need batteries. You can have batteries if you want to have a backup, but in general, you don't need batteries. And what that does is it reduces the cost of the system greatly, and it reduces the complexity. So it makes it a lot more economically viable. As I mentioned, in general, up in this area, we get a lot of sun in the summer, of course. In the winter, we also get a lot of sun because we don't get as many cloudy days as some places like the interior of BC. But most of our power is going to be made through the summer from March to October. And I tell you, we've really seen it. We're in March, April, you see that hit of solar come in and the power goes up on our bar graphs really fast. So in general, we've got rooftop, we've got 3 types of solar installations like Don mentioned. We have rooftop, we have ground mount, and we have a flat rooftop. So in most cases, a rooftop solar installation on a roof that's already there is the least expensive. It's quick and easy to put on because the structure is already there. We don't have to build a separate structure. We're just going to use what's there. So sometimes we have to live with things that aren't perfect. It may not have the exact slope we want. It may have a little bit of shading. In this case, the right-hand side that you're looking at the picture gets shaded by the building beside it and by a big tree. The system still makes excellent power, and we just live with it because it was good to put on that way. If you have a ground mount system, then you can put it wherever you want, and you can orient it exactly for the sun. You can give it a good slope, but now you've got to also build the base for the system. You've got to trench in a cable, so there's extra costs. It's more efficient, but there's extra costs. The other thing here is if you look at the roof mount system, it's set off the roof about 4 to 6 inches. As the sun heats it up, the air will flow underneath, you get natural convection. But with a ground mount system, the air is free to move around it. So what happens in the summer is this ground mount system will produce a little bit more energy because it's keeping the solar panels cool. So it's a bit more efficient compared to a ground mount, roof mount. And then of course, on a flat roof mount, it's a great way to utilize the big flat roof space. There's nothing happening up there anyway. And so we put on what's called a ballasted solar system. It's just held down with little concrete blocks, or it can also be bolted down to special bumpers if they're put on. Excuse me, but an excellent way to utilize space and very cost effective as well. Remember, once you put the system up, you pay for it, it's going to keep making power for decades after. There's a couple of main inverter type systems. What we're doing is we're taking the DC power from the solar panels, we're turning it into AC power that your building can use. Now, some buildings are 120/240 like your house. Other buildings are 3-phase like a commercial building. On the left, what you see is a string inverter system. These solar panels are tied together in groups or strings, which feed the DC power into the inverter. You see the inverter feeds the power. I don't know if you can see my mouse. You see that? The inverter feeds the power out and into the breaker panel, into one of the breakers, which feeds all of the loads in the building. Remember, you're going to reduce or feed the loads in your building first, then any extra will go out to the grid. The other kind we can do is what's called a microinverter system. And this black box here goes on the roof underneath the solar panels, and it produces power in the AC power directly that goes into this little box and into your breaker panel. So it's less room in your building. In most cases, sometimes we need another breaker panel for this, but kind of a more simplified system, easy to adapt and enlarge in time, but a little more costly in some cases. All the systems pretty much come with monitoring now. It's available, cloud-based monitoring, where you can go and you can look real time or over history and see how much energy your system has produced. Or in the top left here, you can see how much energy is produced by each actual individual solar panel. So the nice thing with that is that we can actually see if a solar panel goes black, well, now we know we have an issue. We can deal with it and get warranty on it if needed, or do the maintenance necessary, because every watt, every kilowatt hour, every day without solar is a day lost. You don't get that back. So we want to know that the system is making power or not making power. But the other thing is it's just really nice to look at this and know that you're making power, and it's real comforting. On the bottom, of course, you can see day, week, month, year. You can look at your system, energy production over time, year over year, a lot of information there.
It's free too.
And sorry, yes, it's free. So it's provided by the manufacturers of the solar equipment. The only thing we need is we need to have an operating and available internet connection, either with a Cat5 cable plugged in or with a Wi-Fi connection. And sometimes that's difficult if you're out in the country and we're a distance away from it. So it's, as long as it's available, we can connect easily, and you have this available on your phone or your computer or your smart tablet. So just some general frequently asked questions. What does solar cost? So we're going to get into that a little bit later but it's impossible to say exactly because every system is custom designed. I mean, you'll find on the internet you can buy a certain size of solar system, but how do you know what that solar system is going to do for you and your situation on your roof or on your ground mount? You know, there's a lot of factors in there that aren't taken into account. So that's why we custom design each system. Then we calculate how much it's going to cost and how much you're likely to save with the power that produces. In winter, you can see that the snow has started to slide off the system. I work in this office right on the right here. And if it snows the next day after a couple hours of sunshine, I'll hear this whoosh and the snow is gone. It's all slid off pretty much. Now what happens is as the sun gets through, it'll start to heat up the surface of the panels. You get just a little sheen of water and the snow will slide easier on that water and clear the panels. If the snow is thin enough, it'll keep making power, not as much, but quite a bit of power. And this, of course, also depends on how steep your roof. This picture doesn't quite show it, but we've got a fairly steep roof here. The average roof is about half of this slope, so it'll take longer to slide off or to melt off. But remember, you're not making a lot of power in winter anyway, so even if the snow stayed on there the whole time, you wouldn't be losing that much energy. Now, I'll admit, I've actually, on our array, I've started cleaning them off whenever it gets too heavy because I want to make as much power as I can. We have 2 electric vehicles and we changed out a gas heater for electric heater. So I want to make as many kilowatt hours as I can. But, you know, we were looking at it here in January, we cleared off some snow and it took us a couple hours to do it. And the next day we made 20 cents worth of power. So I'm not sure it was a good investment to clean that off. And the other thing, of course, we never want to have people walking on the array or walking on the roof, putting themselves or other people in danger. You know, it has to be done safely. We do it from the ground with a roof rake and stand back and that sort of thing.
I've never cleaned my panels.
Yeah, Don says he's never cleaned his panels and he still gets good power. So it's totally, and we know of a couple of others that started cleaning them and after a couple of years they quit because it just didn't seem to make any difference. Now, if you have a ground mount, of course, it's going to slide off a lot faster and you can clean them off easier. So, you know, there's always those options. Does your roof have to face south? No. Ideally, facing south is the best. That's where the sun is really going to give you the most energy. What we're looking at is probably between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. in the afternoon up here for the most solar energy. The one on the left is full east facing, and the one on the right is corked a little bit east-west, north-south, and it has trees around it. Both of them still make excellent power, and when we watch the monitoring even into the late evening in the summer, they're still making power even though the sun is way around the other side. And the reason for that is the new solar panels are, if you feel the glass, it's not smooth like a window glass. It's actually rough. And what it does, it takes the sunlight and kind of bends it in from all angles to get that light energy onto the solar cells so they can make power. So any light reflected off clouds or dust or anything in the air at all can help make power for you. The roof slope, of course, yeah, that can matter as well. The steeper the slope up to about 45 or 50 degrees will make more power up here than a flat roof. But it really depends on the year as well. I mean, a steeper roof will make more power over the course of a year. But then again, a flatter roof in the middle of summer is going to make more power because it's getting more energy during that long, long day. So it's not a super critical part of the equation. Shade, of course, if we're not shading the panels, we're going to make more energy than if we are shading them. So we'd prefer not to have shade. We don't want to tell you to cut down trees. I mean, if you're going to be trimming the tree out anyway or trimming the top off, that's something you can do. But for the most part, we'll try and work around shade. And our professional modeling software, we can plunk shade into the design and calculate the impact that shade would have. And that software actually calculates every hour of the year. So was it 8,620 hours a year, I think, that it calculates for energy production. So it will take into shade no matter what day or time of the day. Do I need batteries? So I mentioned earlier for grid tie solar, of course, we do not need batteries. That makes it a lot cheaper, a lot easier, a lot simpler, less maintenance, all of that. In some cases though, some people want to have that backup energy immediately available. They don't even want a generator. So like this couple, they travel away in winter sometimes, and they wanted to know that even if the power went down and the people watching their property weren't there right away, that they would still have power for their fridge, sump pump, freezer, and keep the heat on. So in this case, they've got, on this side here, we've got an inverter that's a hybrid inverter. So it will charge the batteries, but it also takes that energy and puts it out to the grid when the batteries are charged, and puts power into the breaker panels for the house. So you can notice that it's much bigger because it's much more complex. So the cost of the batteries, the more complex inverter, all adds up to the extra cost. And we usually have an extra breakout panel for your loads, so that we're just powering up those loads when the power goes down instead of everything. So it becomes a lot more complex, a lot more costly. It does work, and it is possible. You just kind of have to be ready to undertake that little journey. The other option that we can do is just put in, if you want some backup power, is put in a transfer panel, and that can be a manual or automatic transfer panel. What that does is when the power goes down, either a generator starts automatically, or you could plug in a generator and flip it over manually to power up whatever loads you wanted to. And so that's a fairly reasonable option, usually between $1,500 and $2,000, depending on the unit. But definitely that's something that we could put in conjunction with a solar array, so you know you have backup power. When you're selling your house, that's an interesting thing. Like when we first started this, we weren't sure what exactly putting solar on would do for a property. But there's been a number of studies done, and what we've seen around here as well. What solar does is it makes your property unique in that marketplace. So when you go to sell your place, it's different from the other properties in that same price point. The other thing is you usually recoup the cost of the solar system, plus you've already been saving money on it. And so, you know, it's got a double good basis for it there to put solar on, and you had the benefit of using it the whole time that it was on and you owned the property. We'll just run through it quickly. You know, what does it look like to install a rooftop solar system? So we have aluminum rails that are attached to the roof. We use trained, experienced solar installers. We have a number of them. We have Fort St. John, somebody trained there, somebody in Dawson Creek, and somebody in Alberta as well. So you see these little feet here. So with a shingled system, these little feet attach into the structure of the roof, and it goes under the shingles. So there's multiple points of water protection, I guess it would be, yeah. Now, what if you have a metal roof? Well, a metal roof on the left here, we've got a kind of a corrugated roof. There's special attachments for that. And on the right side, we've got a standing seam roof, and there's special attachments for that. And you notice with the standing seam roof, you can actually clamp to the roof seam, so you're not penetrating at all. You're not putting any holes in the roof. With this one, we're putting holes in there, but it's got double points of sealing with rubber and gaskets. Plus you're not down in the valley, you're up on the angles or the slopes or the top, depending on the design. So there's always multiple layers of protection for water penetration. And it's easily done on pretty much any kind of roof. Even in Hudson's Hope, we did a wood shake roof on the Visitors Information Center, and went very well on that as well. So then we clamp the solar panels to the rail. This is all specialized equipment, so that when we're finished, it's electrically bonded together in regards to the Canadian Electrical Code. You could just throw some panels on a couple of 2x4s and be done, but you would have some problems getting it certified by the safety authorities. And yeah, so then we plug and play. We connect all the solar panels together. Like I say, in this one, they're a string inverter system. So there's one string on the west side and one string on the east side. And as I mentioned, the east side tends to get shaded a little bit more, but still makes a lot of energy as well. This is as I mentioned, the solar panels produce DC power. That's like a battery, direct current power. The power comes down from both these strings and these two cables on this side. Ron is just connecting them into the inverter. The inverter changes that power into AC power, which is put into your breaker panel for your building to use. And then, of course, we have an electrical inspection, and we get an approval to generate grid-tied power. Now, part of this whole process is also to get the approval from the utility to install the system to start with. So in BC Hydro, we make application to the BC Hydro Net Metering Department to put on a certain size solar system on a certain building, and they say, yes, go ahead, or make changes. Excuse me. In Alberta, we have to do the same thing. In Northern Alberta, we've been working with ATCO, and they've been excellent to work with as well. And we've got the process down now where we can give them the information they need so they can give us an approval. But it does take a little bit longer in Alberta. So if you're thinking of going solar in the spring and you want the maximum benefit from this year, please get a hold of us right away so we can start that process. I think they're going to get really busy this year. So we want to make sure and get all the applications through as soon as we can so that they're ready to go in spring instead of having to wait until spring. Now we're into July and getting later and later. There are some areas we found in Alberta as well, some of the counties that have policy where you need to do a development permit. And there again, it's something that we can definitely do, and we'll work with you on that. We'll take care of it for you, but it does take time. So we want to make sure to get it done, started early enough to get it finished by the time the solar season arrives. So installing a ground mount, very similar, but we have to install the support structure. So in this case, big screw pile truck, put in the piles, then installing the racking onto the piles, installing the solar panels on the racking. And you can see here, these little black boxes. In this case, this is a micro inverter system. So each of these is going to take the power from one solar panel, or 2 solar panels in this case, turn it into AC power for your building. And here we are in the back, and here again we have the AC, the micro inverters taking the power, putting it into this combiner box, which then puts power into the building. This is another grid tie system, and in Alberta and a lot of places in BC, we have the meter and the main disconnect is either on the pole or in what's called a power shed instead of inside your building. We can definitely work with that, and the power just go into that building first or into your house panel, or it can be reversed as well, as long as we're working with the Canadian Electrical Code. We can actually go backwards and put the power into your building panel, which then feeds your main panel and may even go out to feed a shop and other outbuildings. So it's just as long as we make sure everything's done correctly, and we can design that for you. Now, something I mentioned just real quickly is, making your own fuel for your own vehicle. We have 2 plug-in hybrid electric vehicles in our house. Basically, we come home at night, we plug them in. The next day we wake up, they're full of fuel, and we drive the next day with electric. We have another customer in Fort St. John. He has this special SolarEdge grid-tied inverter, which also has an EV charger that he just plugs his car directly into that. So basically, during the day when he plugs his car in and the sun's shining, you can pretty much call it filling your car with sun. You're filling up with sun fuel at that time. To drive 15,000 kilometers in a year, roughly, would take about a 3 kilowatt system up in this area. So in general, that 3 kilowatts of solar is going to produce about as much energy in 1 year as your car is going to take to drive 15,000 kilometers in 1 year. So it really is a way of filling your own vehicle with power or with fuel. You're making that fuel, you've invested the money in it, and as the rates go up, you're stabilized into the future again. You're still doing it yourself. And so we can help design that in there if you like. Just to give you a sense of kind of what we work with as far as designing a system. And I know this is something that a lot of people have asked us for, is how do we go about this? So if you see in the upper right here, we have an annual use of around 7,000 kilowatt hours per year. Now, I just threw this together. This is not exact. This is not, science. This is rough numbers. This is approximations, is making a lot of assumptions. So please don't hold me to these numbers. This is just to give you a sense of what it kind of looks like. So remember, for net metering and net billing examples, what we're trying to do is match that 7,000 kilowatt hours per year with solar energy. Well, where can we put our solar energy? Well, we have a number of options here. We have the shop roof. It's a north-south facing ridge, so we have an east and west facing slope. We have a generally south facing roof slope here. And then of course, we've got lots of room for a ground mount. How much energy do we need to make? What's our budget? And what are the visuals? There's other options. Those are things we have to consider as well. Excuse me. So let's look at the shop first. So the shop has an east-west facing roof. It has lots of space on the shop. We've got room for probably 22 kilowatts or more of solar panels. Annual solar production would be about 21,000 kilowatt hours per year. Now, we know from our past slide, we only need 7,000 kilowatt hours per year. So what we're going to do is reduce down the size of that solar array, so we're not over-investing in the solar system. If you over-invest, you're not really getting the benefit back out of it as much as you could. So it's better to size it correctly to start with. Now notice this number at the bottom here, 960 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak. Basically what that means is that over the course of a year, for every kilowatt installed on your roof, you're going to produce about that many kilowatt hours peak in total. So again, this is rough numbers. It's probably a little bit lower than that for an east-west facing roof, but let's use that for example. So let's reduce the size of the solar array. Now we got about a 7.5 kilowatt solar array. Let's say it's $3 a watt. That's a very rough price. The numbers are probably much lower than that now. It's about $22,500 with an estimated return on investment of about 4% in year one. So when we're talking about that ROI of 4%, of course, where does that come from? What we're referring to is producing that 7,000 kilowatt hours of power. What would that power be worth if you had to pay for it from the utility? And there's a lot of things that make up that price of power, but if we can get a rough average price of power and multiply it by the energy that the solar system produces, we can come up with a value, and that value divided back into your initial cost gives us a percentage ROI. So again, very rough, but just something to work with, something to look at. Now, what I'd like you to notice is 4% return on investment. There's not very many banks or bank accounts right now that are making 4%. I think 1/10 of 1% to 1%, maybe 2%. A good investment is 3-4%, maybe a little more. But solar is a good investment. I was looking at one the other day for a business. A larger solar array is more efficient as far as installation and cost. And he was getting up around 7 or 8%. So it's looking better all the time. So this is looking at the house now. Remember, our house had a generally south-facing roof. Again, we've got room for probably 10.5 kilowatts of solar. We've got a dormer here in the middle. So we don't really want to use that dormer, but we can fit solar around it. Notice the color of the modules. Now in my program that does the calculations for this, you'll notice on here, they're an orange color. That means they're not very efficient at making power. They're okay, but when we get green, that's much better. When we get bright green, that's even better. So in this case, we're going to make a lot of power. We're about 1,175 kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak. So this is a more efficient system, which means we don't need as much of a system to make that power to become net zero. So in this case, about 6 kilowatts of solar on the roof, solar DC, on that south-facing roof is going to cost us roughly $18,000 and an estimated ROI of 6% in year one. And of course, as the rate of your power goes up from the utility, that ROI actually improves because instead of paying that money out, you're putting that money in your own pocket. Hope I'm not going too fast, but you'll have time for questions afterwards. And there's a lot of information, and I tend to run fast, so just let me know. So in this case, a ground mount. What about a ground mount? Well, here we've got this really nice house with a beautiful view over the valley here. They probably don't want to have the solar system right out in front of their really nice deck, but they might. But there's lots of other room we can put that too. So I just put it here for now. Notice the color, really rich, bright green. So this is going to make excellent energy. We've got room for a lot of power. Our kilowatt hours per kilowatt peak have increased because we have no shading. They're cooler in summer. And what's happening is that, remember that graph for the energy production, the shoulders, like the spring and the fall, pick up and they make more energy because it's a better orientation to the sun. The summer was kind of flattened out a little bit because it's so sharp an angle instead of being flatter. So a ground mount is an excellent option if you have the space. You'll notice we need less solar. We only need about 5 kilowatts now to make 5 kilowatts of solar on the array to make as much power to become net zero. The price is a little more expensive because we have to make that ground mount now. We have to put the footings in the ground. There's some other costs there to trench the cable, etc. So it's more expensive to install, but it's kind of a trade-off. We need less of it, more expensive. So our ROI is still fairly reasonable, 6.5% or so. So you can see there's a lot of different factors that go into designing the system. That's what we do for you. We'll look for a number of different options to see what's going to fit. I can take an image like this and I can look at it, if I can get a good image on Google, I can design the system in just a short time that'll give you a rough estimate. And usually you can make a decision from that. If you need more in-depth information or more of an assessment, then we can do that on a fee basis. And I'll discuss that more at the end. But quite often I can do a quick assessment that'll give you a rough estimate in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, just from talking to you and looking on digital imagery. So what's the difference between net metering and net billing and for your electricity bill? So in BC, we have net metering. Net metering gives you kilowatt hour credits that may carry over into the following billing cycles. Then once a year, they do a cash settlement on the anniversary date or the settlement date. So that's an important difference from Alberta at the bottom, net billing. Net billing gives you a cash settlement every billing cycle. So your kilowatt hour credits on that billing cycle get turned into cash. and you pay for any energy that you used. So there's a difference there. And we'll go through that in a minute, what the benefits of each of them are. So let's give an example here. So net metering in BC Hydro, in BC, rather with BC Hydro, there's also Fortis. We're going to talk just about BC Hydro. We have the inflow in light blue and the outflow in dark blue. So you can see the solar system started making power in October. Every month it's been making a little bit of power. So first thing it does is displace power. So we reduce the amount of power that's being drawn in on the inflow, and we're producing power getting put out. And here we see, of course, June, July, we're going to start producing more power, using less power. Now we're putting credits in the bank. Down at the bottom, we see outflow and inflow. So those are going to get balanced off against each other. And that's what we see on our bill here. Down on the bottom left, we have inflow from the grid, 787 kilowatt hours. And we have outflow to the grid, 2011 kilowatt hours. On the next one, we see we have, where are we here? Yeah, up in the top left, we have the current balance. Our generation balance is 1,224. And that generation balance got applied here as a credit. So we've actually balanced off all of the use. And in this month, there was no kilowatt hour charges to be paid. Now, of course, there's still some base charges that have to be paid. In this case, paid $12.50. I think most people would love to pay $12.50, $20, $30 on a bill. So this is when it's really important. You make your power, you reduce your usage. The extra power reduces your power on your bill that you did use. And then once a year, they settle up with you and pay you out for that excess power. In Alberta, net billing, this is a bill from Ace Energy from one of our customers. Up in the top right here, we see the usage. So this is the power, the inflow from the grid. Remember, they keep track of the power inflow and outflow on a momentary basis. So you might be producing power and putting it out to the grid right now, and 5 seconds later, you might be pulling power from the grid. And it's all calculated and kept track of by the utility, but it's seamless and it happens all the time. It's just back and forth. Excuse me. Notice down here, we've got the retailer charges. So in Alberta, they're going to take that total usage, 187 kilowatt hours. You have to pay for that usage in that billing period. So 19 cents is $35, 53 cents. There's an administration fee, of course. So you have a total amount that you owe. Now on the next one, here's our export. So we exported, first we displaced power, reduced the energy we're using from the grid. Now we're exporting power to the grid. And we produced 1,028 kilowatt hours and put that out to the grid, and they paid us, so negative 19 cents per kilowatt hour. So now we have a credit of $195.32. Final result for this customer, for this bill, was actually a credit on the entire bill, which is amazing because there's still down here at the bottom, there's transmission and balancing pool and distribution charges that you're charged on every bill. In this case, and this would be rare, I have to admit, this is rare, but they had enough credits in this bill cash-wise that they actually paid for their entire bill and have a credit that'll carry to the next bill. So, you know, it's definitely possible. A lot of people say, well, do people really save money? Do they really? And yes, they do. Right off the bat. As soon as you turn that switch on, you started saving money because you're making power. If you have a business, whether it's a complete, you know, a business downtown, or if you maybe have a farm or you run a small business out of your home, you can write off a percentage of your solar system on your taxes against your taxable income. Now, we're not accountants, so please check with your accountant or financial advisor, but you know, you have the choice of up to 100% in the first year or 50% per year on a declining basis. And basically what that's doing is improving your return on investment, your ROI. Not every business is going to take advantage of that because it depends on your special circumstances. But it's something you can look at. And you know, I know one business that's looking at putting in solar, writing it off, and then selling their business the following year. So they've got the full benefit of it, and they've got the increased value, and then the next person gets the benefit as well. How do we pay for our solar system? So that's one of the problems with renewable energy. Renewable energy, you have to pay for it all up front, and then later on it starts paying you off. Well, from moment one, when you turn it on, it starts paying you off. But you have to have all that cash up front. So what are some of the options? And I'm just going to throw these out there. Everybody has a different situation. You'll see something that may or may not work for you. So one thing is to add to a mortgage for a new construction. And this is a very affordable option. If you're building a house or a building anyway, you know, throw a little bit extra in there for solar, even if it's not full net zero. You don't have to be 100% net zero. That's what we strive for. But even if it's a smaller system, you'll start saving money right away, and you've got that asset with the building that's going to carry through for you. So adding it to a mortgage right off the bat is a really good option. Add it to a mortgage renewal. A lot of people are renewing their mortgage because there's low rates right now, excellent rates with mortgages, or their mortgage coming up for renewal anyway. Borrow $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, add to your property value, get that value in there right away in the asset going for you. Savings, like we talked about earlier, some people have savings that are getting very low interest rates. Instead of having it sitting there, do that. Put it into your property as an investment. It's going to pay you back a better interest rate, return on investment. And again, it's there for the long term. Investment repurpose, again, that low interest bond, etc. Switch it over, put it to work somewhere else with solar. A line of credit. Many people have a line of credit, right? You know, depending on your COVID situation, some people have been hit harder than others. So that may or may not be an option. Home renovation loans are available as well. Now we've actually organized with Alberta Treasury Branch, ATB. We have solar finance loans available in Alberta now for homes and for businesses. And in Alberta and BC, we've organized with Atticus Business Leases for BC and Alberta. So what we can do is offer you a business lease, which saves your capital for other uses. You can pay your system off, and you set up the deal with the leasing company, Atticus, for what's going to work for you. Anywhere from a couple of years to 7 years or so, they'll work with you on what the actual details are. But those are available now, so they are options. PACE financing. I just kind of mentioned this as a buy. It's basically organizing financing for your solar system against your property taxes. So it has to be arranged by the municipality or the government body in that agency. Excuse me. Edmonton has just set this up, or is just starting this. And it's an excellent program because instead of coming up with all that money up front, you can put it onto your taxes. The local government carries that and charges you interest on that. But that way, every year you pay off a little bit more with your taxes. If you sell the property, the next person just takes it over, and nobody has to come up with like a large sum all at once. So that's becoming more into vogue now. And what you can do is you can help lobby local government bodies to put that in place in your locality so that it's available for you and others. Give us a call if you have any questions or if we can help you in any way. Yeah, so why choose Peace Energy Cooperative? So, you know, as you've seen, we live with solar. Don's got solar in his house. He was one of the first ones to have solar, I think, period. I think he was right after the space program. He got his first solar panel. I think that first solar panel, Don, how much was it for?
It was a 50-watt panel, cost $800.
A 50-watt solar panel, just the solar panel cost $800.
That's $1,980.
$1,980. So that would be, what is that, $400 a watt or something? Yeah, extremely expensive. So
I bought it anyway.
Bought it anyway. We're looking at solar at under $1 a watt now, fully installed. So much better program. But yeah, we know solar. We live with solar. We love solar. It works for us. We know it works. Peace Energy Co-op, we provide the custom solar design for you, so you don't have to know everything. This is a lot of information today, and I hope you take away a lot of good points. But you don't have to know all this. That's what we do. We put it together. We'll give you an estimate and make it work for what you have and your budget and your space. We also find the best value. We only use CSA approved equipment, reliable and proven manufacturers. If you think of those warranty times, anywhere between 10 and 25 years, you don't want a company that's not going to be here next year. You know, you want a good quality company that makes a lot of product, is known for quality, and is going to stand behind their warranty if it ever is needed. Complete project management, design to installation, and long-term monitoring. So we do the complete project for you, but we can also supply long-term monitoring. You can do that yourself, but we can also do it if you like. We can also do an O&M package, an operation and maintenance package, to check up on your system just to make sure it's operating correctly. There are things that happen now and again, just little things, and they need to be fixed, like you say, otherwise you lose out. So we just make sure it's all good. We're Peace Energy residents. We live in the area. We work in the area. We're here for the long run. I know some of you are coming from areas outside the Peace region, and thanks very much for checking in. If you have a big system, we can definitely talk. We might be able to come there and install for you as well. So don't count us out if you're not from the Peace region. So just key points. We make it easy for you. Give us a shout and we'll do the rest. Use solar. Once your solar is installed, very little for you to do. I mean, Don doesn't worry about monitoring at all. He's got a little meter on his wall he looks at now and again. I look at mine regularly because I love to see that energy production, but you don't have to monitor. It'll just keep making power anyway. It's just good to check in on it now and again. New technology. Yeah, I always get this question. Which is the best technology to use? How much do I wait? Think of it like your phone, your cell phone, your computer. Which technology do you wait for? There's always new technology to come out with. It's always a little bit better. It's always more expensive though too. And sometimes there's glitches. So we like to use really good quality technology. We know it works, it's mature. And there's no use waiting for that new stuff to come out. This is gonna work for you right off the bat and it'll keep working. It's the one big thing we can do for the environment now and every day. As soon as you put that system in, it's saving. In BC, we have a lot of hydropower. This is a lot greener than hydropower. It's making power right there on your building, and right off the bat, even at that, it's lower carbon footprint than hydro is. So becoming a member of Peace Energy Co-op, of course, that's a big thing to assist us in what we're doing overall in selling solar and gives you the opportunity to invest in the future projects when they come around. The other thing is if you want a solar assessment, like I say, I can do a fairly quick one online if I can see your property clearly, if you give me a few details. So connect with me either by phone or email and we can talk about that. If you want a more in-depth solar assessment, this is an example of a report here. We can look at that and I can give you a quotation. They're usually between $300 and $500, depending on the complexity and how deep you want to go into it. So that's what we do. And I think I'm going to switch back to Don here now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through. Don's gonna go through the co-op information. We'll do a quick video on Hudson's Hope, and then we're gonna do a question and answer period.
Yeah, boy, that's a lot of information very quickly, isn't it? I'm still learning, but Greg explains things, I hope you agree, really, really well. And that's a lot of detail in one short. Thanks for sticking with us here. I'm just going to finish off with sort of the membership pitch. All right, we'd really like you to join our cooperative. Many people are, I've talked to some people, just the other day, who are just very concerned about what's going on in the world. What can they do, to, I don't know, help protect the environment or do something, that seems to be useful to them and meaningful. Without having to invest, $20,000 solar array or something. What can I do that's quick and easy? And I say join Peace Energy Renewable Energy Cooperative. Go online, go onto our website. Takes 10 minutes and you're a member. Costs $200 for a lifetime membership. Just one. It's just once, so one payment, done. You can join as a couple for one member, as well if you'd like to, and also businesses can join, no problem. So it's a lifetime membership. You get all kinds of cool stuff, including a cool book. Where's the camera? Cool book. All right. Power Shift. This is a book we produced on the building of Bear Mountain Wind Park. So it's a book on wind power. Picture book. My pictures. Very good. But it is like a crash course in wind energy and renewable energy in general and how the co-op played its part in the building of BC's first commercial wind facility. Then when the $200 membership fee buys you a share membership in the cooperative, you own a piece of the cooperative, all right, for life. And it's transferable. Should you pass on, it can be passed on to somebody else. It also gives you an opportunity to, as I mentioned earlier regarding that solar farm we're working on near Peace River, should that come to fruition, and certainly we're working very hard to make that happen, you would, as a member, be offered an opportunity to invest in that project, and we will know roughly what kind of return you should get on that investment. But it should be quite reasonable and a good investment. That's the whole idea. And then that investment will be locked in for the life of the facility, which is 25 years plus. So it could be an excellent opportunity, and that's certainly what we're working towards. Of course, then, as a member, you also have share an opportunity to vote on directors at our AGM, yearly AGM, one AGM every spring usually. You can serve on the board. You can do all kinds of cool things. Give us a hand if you like. Give us advice. We engage with our membership quite a bit, and we certainly send you information regarding renewable energy as well. I write a blog every 2 weeks called What's Happening. And that's sent out to all members every 2 weeks. It gives you the latest information really on what's going on around the world on renewable energy, clean energy, new technology, new opportunities, electric vehicles, you name it. We cover everything. And it's sort of an edited down. There's a lot of information out there about all of this, but what parts of it are meaningful, right? What does it all mean, and how does it maybe affect my future lifestyle or my job coming up and all that kind of thing? We try to make what's happening relevant to the average person, and sort of a synopsis of what's going on around the world as we move into a world hopefully powered exclusively by renewable energy, coming right up, we hope. And also we get personal invitations to more of our webinars like this one and other events that we hold, information events, and other events that you would then be personally invited to attend. So you're kept in tune with what's going on as a member, and also have opportunities to invest, we hope, and in renewable energy projects, and participate in co-op activities if you so choose. So, okay, I think that's it. Is that it? Oh, well, just a quick, we have two offices. This is our office in the Peace River. Jen Ford is our solar consultant there. Jen is actually online with us right now. She's monitoring what's going on and acting as co-host to this event. And you can get hold of her in the Peace River area or Northern Alberta. She's always available for consultation and information around solar energy, renewable energy, and of course the solar farm project we have near her office in the works. And this is our office here where we're broadcasting from today, this evening, and there's Greg, and he can be reached at our office anytime, of course. So, okay, I think we made it through. We're going to now give you, just for a treat, all right, for having stick with us so long. We have a 3.5-minute video, which I think you'll enjoy. It's on the Hudson's Hope Solar Project. I was very pleased to learn how to fly a drone camera to film this. And then a local fellow, a young fellow, 23-year-old fellow, friend of the cooperative, wonderful, amazing digital composer, did the original music. So we put it all together. I think it's a pretty cool little short video. Then after that, we're going to just take a few more minutes and answer a whole bunch of questions that have been coming in while we've been presenting this. And Greg and I'll go back and forth and finish off the evening with a question and answer period. So if you want to stick with us through the video, I think you'll like it. And then we'll do some question and answer right after that. Okay, Greg, you're going to fire up the video?
Yeah, I'll just
Okay.
switch over here.
Okay.
All right, so. All right, so hope you can still see this. You still see my screen? Though?
Yep.
Yeah.
I see
Okay.
you.
All right.
No video though. On her screen.
Sorry, I'm just going to pause this and make sure I got the right screen here. Oh, now.
Yep, screen.
Oh,
Yep,
there,
it's there.
okay. Go back
Okay.
to the
You're
beginning if
good
you
to
don't
go.
mind. Yeah, there you go. Okay, we're
Okay,
good.
here we go.
Okay.
right. Well, that was excellent. I always love watching that video.
Hudson Soap, what a beautiful location as
Back a
well.
little bit.
Eh?
Just come back a little bit. And there you go. Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Okay, so we're just going to put up a second poll while we're answering questions. If you can please just go through and answer those. We're always trying to make these sessions better and more informative and more to the point for what people are looking for. So if you can just go through that poll really quick for us, we'd appreciate it. So let's answer some questions here. Bruce asks, what is BC Hydro paying per kilowatt for feed-in tariff? So Bruce, it's not actually a feed-in tariff. It's just, what do they call it? It's the net metering settlement rate. And that net metering settlement rate right now is at the end of every year. I said that every kilowatt hour credit is paid out by BC Hydro at the end of a year. So in the last year and a half, some changes were made to the program, the net metering program in BC. It used to be 10 cents per kilowatt hour. It's now going to be 3 or 4 cents per kilowatt hour. And that might sound bad until you realize that really your system should be designed to produce as much energy as you use. So by the time you come back around to your settlement date, you shouldn't have any kilowatt hours that need to be paid out in cash. They're going to change the settlement date so it's in spring instead of in the fall. That means you will use up most of your kilowatt hours. And yeah, so it's still a great system, and at least we do get paid out for them. Both Alberta and BC do get paid for excess kilowatt hours, where some locations do not get paid. They just disappear. So it's a really good system. We're really glad they have it. They've said they don't intend to take it away. So I think we're good there.
Should we make the point that you know what you're actually getting paid for, the power that you're creating, that you're not actually paying for? What you're in essence being paid is what you would normally be paying for power. So actually you're getting paid. What do most people pay for electricity now?
Well, most people are paying between 10 and 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So
exactly,
when they pay us 3 to 4 cents, that'll be based on the wholesale rate the BC Hydro pays.
Sure, but we're just saying that the actual money that you're making with your solar array is the amount that you're saving, which is what you would normally be paying. So you're actually getting paid indirectly 10 to 15 cents per kilowatt hour for your solar electricity.
That's correct.
Just to make that clear. That other stuff is only extra.
Yeah,
there was 10%, and now it's back to 3 or 4 or whatever, or 4 or 5. But that's only extra. And we design systems so ideally there actually isn't any extra.
Right.
Yeah.
Most people are displacing between 12 and 15 cents per kilowatt hour. This year in April in BC, the price goes up 2.7%. And then 2 years from now, it goes up another 3%. So you're definitely going to be saving money right off the bat.
Exactly. Okay. Sorry, I want to make that one little point there.
Good point.
Yeah. Okay.
Dawn, I think we've said this, but just to confirm, how much is a membership share? That's one of the questions.
What was that, sir?
How much is a membership share in Peace Energy Co-op?
$200, one-time fee, lifetime membership.
Okay. Question here, do panels in northern BC or Alberta need to be cleaned? In the States, quite often there's dust needed, recommended to be cleaned off. We found we don't have a lot of dust up here, so it's not necessary to clean them off. We also get enough snow and rain and wind that tends to clear them off. I have noticed sometimes we get some pollen buildup on them. And, you know, I guess if you really wanted to, you can clean them off. It's kind of like snow, though. I don't think you'll get that much extra energy from it. And it will clean off by itself over time. So
yeah, and if it was a really dry, dusty year, or you're in a really dry, dusty location, and you know, I don't know, Lower Mainland or something where there's a lot of dust, what's it? Just run a hose over it and wash it off. I mean, from your lawn, right? It would not be a difficult thing to clean a solar array with some water.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's just spray it down with a hose. But I've had solar in my home for 25 years, and I've never cleaned a solar panel.
Yeah.
No. They just self-clean from a little bit of rain once in a while.
Yeah. Dawn, somebody asking, can you talk about the desire to pay dividends to cooperative members?
The desire
to pay. So what's the intention of the cooperative as far as the investment shares go and paying back the members?
The intention is to create an investment that gives a healthy return to the member investors. Certainly. Otherwise, why would anybody give us money to invest in a project if they're not going to make something on it? Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But how much that's going to be would vary from project to project. And certainly a big part of our planning for the Peace River Solar Farm, community-owned solar farm that we're working on now, the big part of that business plan is what is the return going to be? So it's up to us to, minimize costs, maximize efficiency, and maximize output from that array to maximize profit to our member investors. That's what we do. That is the purpose of our cooperative. So we're hoping that this small community-owned solar project idea is going to fly. It looks very promising, of course, otherwise we wouldn't be working on it. We're putting a lot of hours in on this and hiring consultants and doing all kinds of studies and things. We're dumping money into it too. So it really looks promising financially. There's no question. Otherwise we wouldn't be bothering. But it remains to be seen when the final numbers are cooked. How's it actually going to work out? We should have a much clearer picture of that by midsummer for that particular project. So we'll be looking forward to releasing that information by then.
Yeah. And once we have the business plan laid out and it does look like it should be able to work out, we would be putting together a share offering or investment offering rather to go to the members at that point. And then you would have the opportunity to look through that document and see what exactly it is we're looking at doing with what money and what we expect as return, at that point. So you would have the choice to invest or not. At that point.
Yeah, right. And it's a very comprehensive document that we have to issue legally as a corporate share offering. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question here, fee for solar assessment and quote. So like I mentioned, I can do a fairly quick look at if I can get a good digital image, I can do a fairly quick review online and from talking to you, maybe getting some pictures and measurements. If you want some, and lots of people from that can make a decision right from that. I can give an estimate that's within a range and you can say, yeah, let's go for it. And we take a deposit, finalize the design, give you a firm quote for then you look at and make a decision on for sure. And for lots of people, that's enough right there. We don't have to do a lot of extra. Other people want to know what are all the factors in this and what's it going to entail. And so they want a more in-depth assessment. That is probably going to cost between $300 and $500, maybe more, maybe less, depending on the complexity of your building, your accounts, your system.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different factors that come into play. So we kind of look at it again on an individual basis. We don't have a flat rate, but we can definitely quote it to you.
But you can do quite a bit with just a phone call.
Oh yeah, a phone call. I
or
can give you
on a phone call and just a chat.
Yeah.
Well, you can do a lot.
Yeah.
And
like I showed in my presentation, that work there, I can do that with my program in a short period of time for a quick assessment using a rough number. So, Kevin asks, Alberta initiatives by government to home and business owners. I think what you're talking about there is initiatives as in grants. There have been grants in the past. Right now, there's a business grant that's just coming out. So we can, if you connect with us, we can point you towards that and you can research that a little more. So there are some grants for businesses, I believe right now.
That's in Alberta, right?
In Alberta.
Yeah, in Alberta. Is there anything in BC now?
In BC, you can save the 7% PST. A full solar system does not charge PST.
That's true.
And then as a business, of course, you can write it off if you have that option. So there are some benefits there. As far as direct grants, there's not a lot available. Other than the city of Edmonton, I know, has a grant and they're coming out with that PACE style program.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of, Don's been talking about this, that as we come out of COVID, there's going to be a lot of money getting freed up and hopefully to go towards renewable energy and expanding. So.
Yeah, we'll be watching that carefully. There's a lot of money coming down, as he says, from the feds and from the various provinces. But exactly what form they're going to take and will they be grants to homeowners? Who the heck knows, right?
Yeah.
But we'll be keeping an eye on that. And if we see anything, we'll certainly be notifying our members and our potential client list. If there are opportunities for grants, we'll certainly be telling everybody about it as soon as we find out about it. And we are watching that very carefully.
So we have a question from Dave asking about the ability to offset or add to natural gas heat. Yeah, Dave, for sure. So if you go with electric heat, there's a couple of ways to do it. We have one fellow put in, he kept his propane furnace and he added in an electric heat unit into the plenum, I guess you call it.
Mhm.
And so he still has his propane heat if he needs it, if it gets very, very cold, if the electric can't keep up. But the electric is there. And then he put in a large solar system, so he's producing his own power. And in BC, he can save those kilowatt hour credits to use through the winter. So he's been very happy with his system. He said last year his propane barely came on. And this year he's going to look at it and try and figure out what exactly he needs to become net zero. But he's really happy with it. It's
So
producing a lot of
he's
power
heating his house with solar electricity.
with solar electricity.
And
That's
his
right.
existing furnace blower duct system. He didn't have to do any. There's also, of course, the heat pump
Yeah.
technology, right? That's coming in strong.
Yeah.
And there is a BC grant right now under Clean BC. If you look under Clean BC website, there is a grant for homeowners and businesses to install heat pumps. And heat pumps are an extremely efficient electrical way to heat, right?
Yeah.
They're about a third of the electricity of your standard electric resistance heaters, which are, like your standard baseboard and things. So looking at heat pumps and solar electricity is a super efficient way to go. Yeah. And that's myself. I'm really looking at heat pumps for my home now. I heat with wood and natural gas, and I'd like to get off the natural gas. I really would. And that would be what my next step would be: heat pumps powered by my solar electric array. And that's quite doable now. The technology is mature. The heat pump technology is mature. And it's good to, I don't know, 15, 18 below, they say, and then your regular heat would kick in after that as a backup. So a good way to look at, a good time to look at heat pumps, as there are grants in BC for heat pumps for individuals.
Yeah. The other thing, Dave, as far as solar power goes, what you would want to do if you're going to put something like that in, where you're going to reduce your gas use and go to electric power, you're going to be increasing your electric load then. So we would want to do some calculations for your account to figure out how much power you might be using and how much solar you might want to add to offset that extra use. Because if you don't do that, then you could end up paying a lot of extra for your electric power, because as those bills go up and up and up, you're going to be using more and more. So definitely want to have solar with something like that, I think.
Yeah, and the other thing as well that I'm also looking at, lots of people are going to now, are induction stoves, right? I've got a gas a stove in my kitchen right now, but induction stoves are super energy efficient, right? And people love them. I know people who just bought one that had gas for decades, and they say it's better than gas. It's faster than gas, right? And really very, very more controllable. And of course, there's no gas, so there's no fumes, there's no emissions into the house.
Yeah.
And you can run that off of solar electricity really easily.
For sure.
Yeah.
Scott is asking, can you cover or combine the load of two properties with one set of solar panels? So the answer is probably no, except in certain situations. So in general, net metering or net billing occurs on each individual meter to count. So if you wanted to supply power from one solar array to two different accounts, as far as my understanding is, they would have to be under one conglomerated bill owned by the same person at the same property. They can't be out in different areas. That would be called virtual net metering. And at this time, BC and Alberta do not allow virtual net billing. That's something that's kind of new in different areas that's coming in, maybe, but the utilities, a lot of them are fighting it because that's not their preference. So, although I should say, in BC, the BCUC, the BC Utilities Commission, that reviews BC Hydro billing and rate schedules, in the last round where they changed some of the things for the net metering, they did make a comment about BC Hydro will be looking at virtual net billing in the near future here.
And we
So-
sent them a letter encouraging them to do so.
Yeah.
Because we would like to see that brought into BC.
Well, that might allow for us to actually build a solar farm in the best location possible and have people anywhere invest in that solar farm in order to participate in the kilowatt hours, not just in the
Yeah.
value. So
Yeah. So we'd love to see that happen.
that'd be great, but it's
And
not here yet.
They're looking at it, but you can't do it right now.
Yeah.
No, maybe next year.
Initiatives. So there was one.
Any more?
Yeah, there's a couple. So looking at the load, Roland asked about looking at the load engineering. So yeah, definitely that's part of what we do, is we'll look at the energy use bills from BC Hydro or the ATCO, et cetera, look at how much energy you've been using over a period of time, calculate, what that looks like as far as the solar system goes. Now, when you get more in depth into commercial systems where you have demand charges and that sort of thing, it can be a lot more difficult to decide exactly what the value of the solar is going to be. If the solar is displacing those demand charges during the day, well, you can reduce the demand charges a lot. But if the demand charges are happening at night, then the solar can't displace them. So it kind of depends on the system and what we might install and that sort of thing. Sorry, I might have misunderstood that.
Roland Wilson is asking for wind load engineering.
Oh, okay.
Wind, I think that's wind. We didn't quite see the right word there.
Wind load.
What does that mean? What would that mean?
Um,
Wind load engineering.
Yeah, are the panels engineered for high winds?
Oh, I see. So, yeah, so the solar panels are all a mature technology. They're very strong. There's a video online. I should actually pull it into our presentation here, and it shows them loading it with ice balls. They're 1.5 inch ice ball. They fire it at 30 miles per hour at a solar panel, it doesn't break. They go up to 150 miles per hour, 180 miles per hour, still doesn't break. They're wind loaded up to 120, 140 miles an hour. They're very, very tough. They last a long time, and yeah, they're unlikely to break in most cases.
Yeah, and as far as like a huge wind ripping them off if it was a hurricane, it'd be ripping your whole roof off. Yeah, your solar panel is going to go with your roof. They're not going to fly off on their own. It's extremely well connected to the roof or to the rack, and is engineered to survive lots of load. If that's what you're getting at, Roland, I think so.
Yeah. And if you recall the type of attachments to the roof, if you have a standing seam roof, and remember those clamp-on attachments for the standing seam roof, they've actually shown that those increase the wind load capability of the roof itself, because they're bonding each of those panels together on a number of areas all up and down the roof structure. So solar on a standing seam roof can actually increase the wind load capacity substantially.
Actually improves the strength of your roof. Yes.
Yeah. Greatly. So.
Any more? How are we doing?
I think we may be caught up.
Excellent. Looks like we have 40 participants tonight.
Yeah.
That's a record, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to try to do these every 2 weeks. It's our goal here, solar webinars, and we're going to be having webinars specifically about Peace Energy Cooperative and our new projects like the community-owned solar farm near Peace River. We'll be doing specific webinars on some of these specific projects and about our cooperative in more depth. And we'll be notifying our list if you're on our list. Was that part of the questionnaire that we're leaving them with? Would you want to be Yeah. So if you want to be on you will be notified if you go yes on that survey that we just put up there a few minutes ago. If you hit yes, I'd like to be contacted about future events like this, then you will be contacted and you will be notified about any similar events that we hold. And you would be personally invited to attend them.
And if you happen to know anybody else who might be interested or has talked about solar, pass it on to them too, because they might have time and be interested. So.
Yeah, it's time for solar, folks. I think we all agree with that. It's time to move ahead here with as much solar as possible, and that's exactly what Peace Energy Cooperative is doing. Just a final note to say, yes, please do join our cooperative. We need your support, we need your help, and we like your participation as we move forward with what we have to do here.
And Joanne just handed me a note. We actually have 2 new members who joined while we had the seminar. So
Whoa,
thank you very much,
fantastic.
Mike and David.
All right, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
We're cooking here.
Yeah.
All right, and please pass it on to your friends and relatives. We need members, and we've got some amazing projects that we're working on that are going to revolutionize energy in Western Canada. If we have our way, that's what's going to happen.
Thanks for your support. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With your help, we can do this.
We can do it. 1,000 members and big projects. So get a hold of us if we can help you at all. And let's get things happening.
Okay.
Good night, everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.